Once upon a time, during the difficult days of the Second World War, over 400,000 brave soldiers from Britain and France were stuck on the beaches of Dunkirk, surrounded by enemies. They clung to a small hope for a miraculous escape. In this tense situation, we see 6 British soldiers quietly moving through the empty streets of Dunkirk. They're searching for food and water in abandoned houses. Suddenly, German soldiers hiding in the shadows start shooting. Chaos breaks out, and sadly, 5 of the men are killed. Only one, a young soldier named Tommy, escapes death. He runs to the beach, where many British soldiers are lined up, all hoping to be rescued. As Tommy walks along the beach, he sees a sad sight. Hundreds of dead soldiers in the sand. Amidst this sadness, he meets another young soldier, Gibson, who is burying a friend. Touched by the scene, Tommy helps him bury the soldier. But the peace doesn't last long. German planes fly over, dropping bombs on the stranded soldiers. Many are killed. Yet, Tommy and Gibson somehow survive. Amid the chaos, they find a soldier left behind. They decide to act as medics, hoping to get on a hospital ship with the wounded soldier. They hurry towards their chance of escape, passing French soldiers who are also trying to get away but are turned back. Tommy and Gibson make it to the ship but are sadly turned away. Not giving up, they hide under a concrete pier, waiting for another chance to escape. Hidden there, they overhear top British Navy officers, Commander Bolton, Colonel Wynant, and a Rear Admiral, arguing hard. After a lot of discussion, they decide the pier is their best chance to reach a warship and safety. Just as Tommy, Gibson, and their new friend, Alex, from the Highlanders Regiment, think they might make it, the ship they're trying to get on is attacked. German planes dive down, and missiles hit the ship, making it sink quickly. Soldiers rush to jump into the cold, rough sea to save themselves. Amidst the chaos, Tommy and Gibson cleverly pretend to be soldiers who had just escaped from the sinking ship, and with Alex, they manage to get on another ship marked with the British Red Cross. On this new ship, the trio finds a moment of peace. They are given food and water, and while Tommy, Alex, and the others enjoy this small break, Gibson walks around, clearly uneasy. His instincts are correct. As trouble strikes again, a torpedo hits the ship. Water rushes into the lower decks, threatening to sink them. In a brave move, Gibson finds and opens a hatch, allowing Tommy, Alex, and a few others to get out. They swim hard towards small rescue boats nearby, but these boats are already full of survivors. With no other choice, they grab a rope tied to one of the boats and paddle through the waves, hoping to reach the shore. Tired and discouraged, they think escaping from Dunkirk is impossible. After a few hours near the channel off the coast, they meet a small group of Highlanders who are trying to move a boat stuck in the tidal zone. The boat is too heavy to push into the water, and they must wait for the tide to rise, which happens every 3 hours. Suddenly, the boat's sailor comes back, and in a tense moment, the soldiers hold him, thinking he might be an enemy. But he says he's Dutch, not German, and shockingly tells them they are on German-controlled land. As they process this news, their boat gets hit by gunfire, and water starts coming in through bullet holes. In the middle of danger, Tommy quickly tells everyone to stay calm. He explains that the German soldiers are shooting at their boat for fun, not because they know they're inside, but because it's an easy target. As water fills the boat, tension grows. Alex suggests they throw Gibson overboard to make the boat lighter. Tommy disagrees, reminding everyone how Gibson had saved their lives early. But Alex is stubborn, saying that surviving isn't always fair. He even accuses Gibson of being a German spy, suspicious because Gibson hasn't talked, maybe to hide his accent. In the middle of the argument, Gibson finally talks. He reveals a big secret. He's French, not British. He had taken the identity of the British soldier he buried on the beach, hoping to escape Dunkirk. As the boat drifts out of Dunkirk, their troubles increase. It starts to sink. The soldiers try to fix the bullet holes, but it doesn't work. In a desperate attempt to survive, they all jump into the sea. Sadly, Gibson gets caught in a chain and drowns. A sad ending to his brave story. Meanwhile, back in England, the Royal Navy starts using private boats to help with the Dunkirk evacuation. A civilian sailor named Dawson, with his son Peter, decides to act on their own. Instead of handing over their boat, they head towards Dunkirk on their own boat, the Moonstone. Joining them suddenly is George, a young helper who wants to prove himself. As they get close to Dunkirk, they find a sunken British ship with a shocked soldier sitting. They carefully approach and rescue the shaking man. When Dawson asks his name, the soldier stays quiet, overwhelmed with fear. He begs them to turn back, saying he has to go back to land to build a bomb, but Dawson is firm. He tells the soldier they are on a mission to rescue as many as they can, determined to make a difference in the chaos of war. Here, a very shocked soldier insists on going back to land. When he doesn't stop, Peter locks him in a small room for safety, but the soldier is determined. He finds a small opening and escapes, demanding they turn the boat around. As the trio refuses, the soldier desperately tries to take control of the boat. During the struggle, he accidentally pushes George, who who falls and hits his head on the lower deck. Quickly, Peter rushes to help George, who shares in this serious moment that he joined the trip hoping to make a difference, and is proud despite the accident. Sadly, George has hit his head so hard he can no longer see. Realizing how serious George's injuries are, Peter tells his father Dawson, but Dawson says they've come too far to turn back now. Meanwhile, high above, 3 Royal Air Force Spitfires race toward Dunkirk to protect the evacuation. Limited by their fuel, they only have an hour to keep the enemy away. Soon, they run into German fighter planes, and a big air fight, a dogfight, starts. In the chaos, a German plane shoots down their squadron leader. The remaining pilots, Thier and Collins, are left to manage on their own. Collins faces extra danger as his fuel gauge is broken. Yet he fights on to save fuel and continue the mission. Trouble hits when Collins' Spitfire is shot, forcing him to crash land into the ocean. As his plane begins to sink, he struggles hard to get out of the stuck cockpit. On the edge of drowning, his situation looks very bad. But, just in time, Dawson and Peter, still on their rescue mission, see Collins. They quickly pull him from the sinking plane and onto their boat, saving his life. Meanwhile, Thier decides to keep helping in the evacuation, knowing the risk of not making it back home. Around them, more private British boats arrive, a group of civilians coming together to save the stranded soldiers at Dunkirk. Meanwhile, a group of very tired soldiers sees a minesweeper in the distance. Filled with hope, they swim towards it, looking for safety. But their hopes are quickly destroyed when a German bomber flies down and attacks the ship. The explosion causes oil to spill into the sea, covering the soldiers. Sadly, the oil catches fire, and several soldiers in the water die. In a dramatic moment, Thier, flying high above, sees the enemy bomber. Even though he is running out of fuel, he manages to shoot it down. Soon after, as his fuel runs out, he switches to gliding mode and heads towards the beach to make an emergency landing. At the same time, Peter, Collins, and the very scared soldier, still upset from earlier events, get to the place of the explosion. They quickly try to pull as many men as they can onto their boat, including Alex and Tommy. As Alex goes below deck to rest, he finds George, who has sadly died from his injuries. He quietly tells Dawson and Peter, who can only grieve. Amidst the sadness, the very scared soldier, not knowing about George's death, asks Peter if George will be okay. Wanting to protect him from more sadness, Peter tells him that George will be fine. A kind lie in a tough moment, but the danger isn't over yet. Another German bomber appears, bringing fear back to the soldiers. Despite the tough situation, the brave Thier, now gliding, follows the enemy plane. With great skill, he shoots it down, protecting his fellow soldiers once again. After his brave actions in the sky, Thier lands his Spitfire on the beach, out of the enemy's reach. He then sets his plane on fire to stop the enemy from using it, and calmly waits to be captured, showing incredible bravery. Back at sea, Dawson and other private boat owners are making their way back home, after successfully rescuing many stranded soldiers. With over 300,000 men evacuated in what turned out to be one of the biggest and most amazing rescues in history, Commander Bolton decides to stay behind to manage the remaining evacuations, including the French forces. He watches as Colonel Wynant and the last group of the British Army leave, marking a major change in the war that puts the Germans on the defensive. Meanwhile, the soldiers return to southern England and are sent to their hometowns by train. On the train, Alex is worried, fearing they will be criticized for being defeated in battle. However, when they arrive at the station, he is given a newspaper that has a message from Prime Minister Winston Churchill. Not wanting to face any negative reactions, Alex asks Tommy to read it out loud. To their surprise, Churchill praises the bravery and efforts of the soldiers, celebrating the miraculous escape they were part of. He reminds them that while this was a key moment, the war is not yet won, urging them to get ready to keep fighting. In the last scene, Peter makes sure that George's bravery is not forgotten. He takes a photo of George to a local newspaper office and gets it published, honoring the young boy as a hero of the Dunkirk evacuation. This story not only shows a dramatic survival and escape, but also highlights the unending spirit and courage of everyone involved, from soldiers to civilians, in changing the course of the war. Here this movie story ends. Please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing.